After that happened, do you recall anything else?
I don't.
Why didn't you guys say anything to Josh when he was grabbing the leg? Why wasn't there something said about it?
I'm not sure. I thought she just nudged me because it was an not uncomfortable, but awkward situation.
Was Josh a stranger to you all?
No.
So this was someone, not a friend, but someone who you knew.
Yes.
At that point in time, in your head, are you thinking anything of it?
No.
Really? Obviously, you said sort of a nervous laugh. Is that fair?
Yes.
Fair way to call it? And you ultimately fall asleep in the car?
Yes.
The truck, I'm sorry. What's the next thing you recall after you fall asleep?
Pulling into my driveway.
And where were you living back then? Do you remember the address?
55893 Marietta Road, Pleasant City, Ohio.
Cool. Guernsey County?
Yes.
That's an easy question, right?
Yes.
What's the layout of your driveway? Is it a short driveway, long driveway?
It's a long gravel driveway.
And when you wake up, are you guys just pulling in, or have you already kind of parked?
Parked.
And what's your mind in that moment? I know you've been drinking, you fell asleep. Do you remember what you're thinking, or do you remember anything about that?
I remember getting out of the truck and holding the door open for MM, and she told me she'd be in a minute. I didn't look at her. I just woke up kind of, a little out of it. So I said okay and shut the door and went in and went to bed.
In that moment, is getting to bed probably your main goal is?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, to the leading questions here.
Sustained, it is leading. You can now rephrase the question. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. What happened after you woke up in the driveway? Can you explain that?
Yes. I got out of the truck to go inside, and I held the door open for MM, and she said she would be into the house in a minute. Didn't look at her. I just shut the door, went inside, and fell asleep.
When you say you fell asleep, where did you go?
Into my bedroom.
At that house, does anybody else live there?
Yes, my mom, I had 2 brothers, and my mom's boyfriend.
Did you have any more communication with the other people you were out with that night?
No.
Did you ever have any other contact with Brooke Bain?
No.
Did you ultimately fall asleep at your house?
Yes.
And what was the next memory you had after falling asleep?
Waking up the next morning to MM laying next to me upset.
Was there anybody else in the house other than MM at that point in time?
My mom.
Now, without going into specifically what she may have told you, can you tell us a little bit about what her demeanor was like when you saw her? How she was acting?
She was upset, shook up. Yes.
Do you remember about what time it was when you woke up?
I don't.
Was it nighttime, daytime, was it light out?
It was daytime.
And did you have discussions with MM about what had happened?
A little bit. Yes.
What about your mom? Was she involved in any of the discussions or anything?
Not until that night.
And when you say that night, can you clarify?
The next day after we went to the bars and yes.
So we got to the next day where you woke up.
Yes.
You say that night and the following evening.
Yes.
Did you ever have discussions with MM about what happened in the truck?
I did.
Do you remember when you had those discussions?
That morning.
Any other follow-up discussions? Did you advise her of anything that she should do?
My mom did.
But you never did anything like that?
No.
After that evening, had you ever, or did you ever have any contact with the defendant via any kind of social media or anything?
No.
Since that incident, have you talked to the defendant at all?
I apologize, but who is the defendant?
I apologize.
I know.
Mr. Sills.
Okay. No.
What about with MM? Have you had any contact with her?
Yes.
How often are you in communication with her, and how do you communicate? Is it in person or with on something else?
Both.
Pretty regularly?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we have cross-examination of the witness.
Thank you. Good morning. When was the last time that you spoke with law enforcement about this incident?
I don't recall what day it was. It was 2019.
So you haven't talked to the police or the prosecutors or anybody about this incident?
I have talked to the prosecutors
And when was the last time you talked to the prosecutors?
2 weeks ago.
Okay. Now, you were interviewed by Detective Coulter a couple of days after this incident. Is
Yes.
that correct? In 2019.
Yes.
Did you ever review that videotape of your interview?
I did listen to it
And when did you listen to it?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you know what you said back in 2019 to this officer when you were being interviewed concerning your knowledge of an alleged sexual assault. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. And at the time that you talked to the officer back in 2019, were you truthful with him?
Yes.
And then back in 2019, was your memory better of those events in 2019, or is it better here today?
Better in 2019.
Okay. So let's begin at the beginning as far as what happened that night. You and MM were out at the mall, I believe. Is that correct? Doing
We
some
went to
shopping?
Applebee's and ate lunch.
For lunch.
Yes.
And after that, then you in turn went to the Wagon Wheel was the next stop.
We went back to my house, then the wagon wheel.
All right. Now, your friend there, Brooke, she also was staying at your house. Is that correct?
She was at my house. She did not go to the wagon wheel.
And she was going to be the designated driver that night?
Yes.
So the plan was that you and MM were going to go out and have some fun and drink. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Just by the way, when was the last time that you saw Mr. Sills?
When I got out of the truck at my house.
And you haven't seen him till you came here into the courtroom?
No.